I mean, to start off, Ira, do you want to? Don't you want to see Robert Saleh just throw that podium on the floor? Don't you want to see it?
Yeah, I would have liked to see it like maybe after the Charger game.
Yeah, unbelievable. I can't believe we have to have this guy come back. He's got like his record's horrible as a coach right now. Terrible.
I know, I get it, and it's funny. I hate to talk this way, but I got to be objective and talk honestly. You know how we spoke back in August, and I told you there were two very, very important things that I have concerned about:
backup quarterback and O-line.
O-line, and the third one is the head coach going to grow. And they struck out on all three.
Yeah. All three of them. And Joe Douglas is coming back. I think that's what upset the fans the most was that Woody Johnson, the season didn't end yet, and he's like, oh, their jobs are secure. There's so much that this team's going to have to do that they really struck out on. Speaking of struck out, how about Dalvin Cook? They released him. He was terrible. Le'Veon Bell was more impactful than this guy.
Yeah, it's really amazing. And I was all in for him. I thought it was going to be a great addition. And, credit Brees Hall for, whoever thought he'd have the season coming off ACL the way he did. The Cook thing was very unfortunate. But you also have to wonder. You're right. I don't know how much he has left in the tank, but did they even use him properly? Or there's so many different factors that go into this. I don't know. I tell you, I just think this season has been like an utter disaster. And I've said this on the radio. I feel this season's been worse than any of the Cote seasons. I really do. Not the record doesn't show it, but just that everything. Rodgers basically everybody's back because of Rodgers. If Rodgers wasn't here, they would have all probably been let go after the game this coming Sunday.
He saved them, and realistically, how long do you think he gives this team? Because I want to say 2 years, but then he's like, oh well, I want to be effective way into my 40s. I only see this being a 2-year thing. That's if he doesn't get injured again.
Right. So, and I'm not even convinced it's going to be a 2-year thing. If things don't go right next year, whatever right means, maybe that's it. Maybe he kind of sails into the sunset. Who knows? I just know I'm not going to get set up to be as disappointed as I was this year. Whatever they do in free agency and the draft, and it's great. You get the best tackle in the draft. That's great. You get 6 players in free agency. That's great. But until I see them start to stockpile wins in the win column, I'm going to really be very hesitant to see which direction this regime is going.
It doesn't look like it's going in the right direction. This team now, what was it, 13 consecutive years without a playoff appearance, going on 14. It's the longest streak in North American sports. It's just, you got to think about when's it going to end. And it all starts at ownership with Woody Johnson and the scouts, and they just can't get it right. And you're right. Maybe Dalvin Cook probably wasn't used the right way, because look at the coach. Like, did you see the play where the offensive lineman in the game was offsides and you saw the offensive line coach run out there? Or there was someone offside in Cleveland. And I'm just sitting there thinking to myself, man, this team is just a disaster. All the penalties that have been killing them, the offsides, the neutral zone infractions, it's unbelievable.
I know, it's everything that you look upon for the last 3 years. And once again, I really don't want to attack the head coach, but you have to be honest here. There's been no improvement. It's the same mistakes, and 10 men on the field, 12 men on the field, burning timeouts. I think in the Cleveland game, didn't they burn a timeout like with 2 minutes after? I forget when it came. Maybe it was when it came out after halftime. It was like 12 and change on the clock. They had to burn a timeout because they didn't have a play right in or something. I think, what it was? I think it was when they got the field goal blocked. So many bad things have happened. They all get pushed together. It's hard to even determine when these things happen. Because well, the other thing, and we haven't even gone into this yet, is the coaching strategy. And that's what really gets me the most, is that good coaches, there's game plans to attack teams' weaknesses. And whether we're playing the Pats, whether we're playing the Giants, whether we're playing whoever, it's like I don't see any different in the approach towards a game. Whether it's run heavy, pass heavy, blitz heavy, non-blitz heavy, nothing changes. I mean, the tight end from the Browns is running all over the field, and they got C.J. Mosley chasing them. I mean, common sense. I mean, you could probably go to an 8 to 10-year-old football coach. If you're in that position and you have somebody who could cover somebody, you stick them on the tight end.
Yeah.
Because Cooper was out of the game. But the Jets don't make those type of adjustments. They're just so stubborn in some of the things they do. And I think they did blitz Sauce once. And I think they got burnt big time because Mosley couldn't cover the tight end.
No, and Njoku was running all over them. It was crazy. And Elijah Moore, too. It's crazy when you look at Michael Carter and all these guys that we cut and traded and really, they're thriving everywhere else, whether it's Morgan Moses, George Fant. They're all having all these career years. They're doing great things, and here we are. It's definitely a problem with us when you look at it.
It's a major coaching problem. I really do. And even Elijah Moore, if he hadn't gotten hurt in that game, he probably would have gone over 100 yards for sure. Yeah. He was well on his way to it.
Yeah.
And listen, and what about the Washington game? How about well, not only that, and once again, if I were Joe Douglas and Joe Flacco called me, I wouldn't have signed him. I'll give Joe Douglas credit for that because he recognized that the system they have in place and they wouldn't be able to protect him. They wouldn't be smart enough or physically able to protect him. So I don't blame him for not bringing him here. But then you take a team like the Browns, who had every bit of adversity that the Jets have had, whether it's the quarterbacks, offensive linemen, running back, whatever it is, and yet that good coaching staff pieced together, a game plans and system and protection plans to keep Flacco, upright. And they're going to the playoffs, and I'll tell you the truth. I think they're going to beat Jacksonville in the first round if that's where they end up playing.
Probably, especially with Flacco's playoff experience. Yeah, you're going to see it. I don't think Flacco would have had the season that he's having in Cleveland right now if he was on because we saw what happened the last 2 years. He's not mobile enough in that.
Yeah, but see, that's the point that I'm pointing my finger at the coaching staff is that the Browns were smart enough to know how to devise things and coach a team to protect this guy where the Jets weren't.
Nope. And the offensive line, Mekhi Becton, really? This guy, he's let up the most pressures, most sacks in the league.
Well, we've been doing shows for a while. How long have I been telling? I wish I was wrong. How long did I tell you that wasn't going to pan out?
Yeah, we've been talking about that for a while now, and it kills me because when we look at it, we should have drafted CeeDee Lamb that year. I'm really convinced that's who we should have got. And this year with the draft coming up, because the draft talk, they're going to have to get a quarterback, and he's going to have to sit behind Rodgers.
Yeah, but it's funny. I felt that way all along, but I don't trust this regime in drafting one.
I don't either. And we talked about that last time because of Wilson.
Right. That's right. But also, the other thing is, because they're so far deep into this Rodgers plan, is that it really doesn't make sense to draft a quarterback because you need somebody that's going to come in right away and going to produce because let's face it, they don't win next year. They're all going to be gone, maybe including Rodgers.
Yeah.
So whether it's an offensive lineman or whatever it might be, it's got to be somebody who's going to contribute to help make Aaron Rodgers better.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be a quarterback that's going to sit because if they draft a quarterback, the chances are it's going to be a new GM and a new coach taking care of the guy in a year or two.
Yeah, that's what's going to happen. And Zach Wilson, he's already ruled out for this game. I think that we're going on 2 games here with the concussion protocol. 3 games now, right? The concussion protocol. He's been in concussion protocol. So this is it as Zach Wilson. We're not going to see him anymore.
No, I'm sure that. Well, I mean, I don't know for a fact, but I would say they don't want this kid to get hurt anymore. If they can recoup whatever they can, that's probably what they're doing. And I'll tell you the truth, I canceled my trip. It looked like it's going to be like almost blizzard conditions up there for this Sunday. Are you putting Brees Hall on that field? If it's icy and slippery and there's freaking 6 inches of snow on the field?
No, I'm not, because I don't want to risk it. That's the thing that was scaring me the past couple games, because there were points in the game against Cleveland where Brees Hall looked like he was winded and hurt. Did you kind of notice that in the game? Like when you saw a replay, I was like, man, he looks like he's worn out, or like there's something wrong. There were a couple plays there, and no one really talked about that. Did you see that a little bit? He looked fatigued almost, and like something was wrong.
I did. He looked like he was overused now. And you know what, then? I got flashbacks. And I loved Herman as a coach. I loved Herman Edwards, okay? But he ran Curtis Martin into the ground.
Yeah.
And I think it took a year or two off of his career because he was used the way he was used. And when I saw Brees Hall, who had a tremendous game against Cleveland, the numbers he put up, unfortunately, they lost. I said, man, this guy's being overused. They're running this guy into the ground. How much does he have left in the tank? He's fully healthy. But what are you pushing it? And the way, what I sometimes I believe in karma, and it's been such a horrendous year. It started with Rodgers getting hurt, and I'm going to games since I think about 65. This has been the worst year for weather games, whether it's rain, rain before games, wet fields, playing in the rain, and now they're going to be playing in the snow and the freezing rain on this coming Sunday. Why push through? I know you play to win the games. I get it, okay? But if this game gets out of hand, I'm sitting Garrett Wilson and Brees Hall. There's no reason for these guys to play in the fourth quarter if this game is out of control.
No, yeah, I agree with you on that. Those are the two number one weapons right there on that offense, and they need to be healthy for next year for Rodgers. When you look at it, there's been a couple points in this season as well where you saw Garrett Wilson limping off, and I think it was the Commanders game. I think he was limping off. Is that the game he kind of limped off to the sideline? You didn't know what happened. There's been a couple games there where it's been scary, and there's a big question mark at wide receiver. If they're not going to draft a quarterback, I'm reading today that the Jets are going to have the 8th pick if everything stands as is. Maybe, who knows, maybe they'll trade up. I would like them to take Marvin Harrison Jr. I really would. I think a receiver, Alan Lazard's not cutting it. He's had a terrible season. And I think receiver is a really big question on this team, as well as the offensive line.
I think you're right, and once again, it's going to depend on their draft board, who's left on the board, or however free agency plays out. But my number one priority, I sign a free agent offensive lineman.
Yeah.
Okay. If I could get my hands on Higgins or Mike Evans, I do it. I'm not giving up any draft picks for Devontae Adams.
No.
I'm just not doing it. And if I could get the receiver and get at least one offensive lineman, if not two, in free agency, I still, if possible, if there's somebody on the board that they love, I would take another offensive line because, let's be honest. Okay, you got Pittman at center. Okay, he's had a so-so year, but he's a rookie. Okay, so he's growing into the position. Besides him, that's it. Because what's his name?
Barrett Tucker.
Barrett Tucker's coming off an injury. So 2 years in a row he got hurt. I mean, great player, but is he going to stay healthy? Okay, and then after that, that's it. You need 3 new starters, and you need some depth players. So basically, you need like 8 new offensive linemen out of 10 on a roster.
Yeah,
and you can't get everything in the draft, can't get everything in free agency, but you're going to have to find a good mix. But I just feel with all the good pieces that they have in place, with Hall, with Wilson, with the defensive players, you got, I think, 9 out of the 11 defensive players coming back. I'm so beaten down this year emotionally from this team. I feel like I'm an expansion team going into next year.
Yeah. The defense, they gave up in that Cleveland game. You saw it right there. It's done. Yeah, they played hard. Something like Jermaine Johnson had a great play there for the pick 6, but you could tell it's just they're just done.
Well, they also mailed it in Miami after the first quarter.
Oh, Miami was a disaster. The shutout, that was a disaster.
That was a disaster. And let's face it, when they were blowing out Washington, the defense let up, and all of a sudden, I mean, they just had no business winning that Washington game.
No.
The only reason they won that game is because Rivera was stupid with 2 minutes to go with his play calling.
Yeah, and Simeon, I do not want to see him back there next. That Douglas, bringing him in, because we talked about it. We wanted Winston. We could have got Joshua Dobbs. We could have. There's so many scenarios of different quarterbacks we could have brought in, but Simeon was just. We had him before. That was such a bad pickup. I did not like that.
And also, nothing really gets mentioned about this. They're 4-3. They lose the Chargers and the Raiders. We know what happened, right?
Yeah.
And then I forget the scenario, but they end up going to Tim Boyle for 2 games when it was, even though realistically it wasn't a season, they were still alive.
Yeah.
So I would love an explanation why they didn't think Simeon would give them a little better of a chance to win a game than Tim Boyle had no business playing in the NFL.
No, and he's cut and he's done. So we're not going to be seeing him again. This team, it's frustrating. I can only imagine you. At least you've seen a Super Bowl. Me, I haven't seen them make the playoffs since I was in 5th grade. I mean, it's like, come on. I've graduated from college. Like, what's going on here?
I know, and if you think next year, just because, and I hear people on the radio and the people you talk to, well, Rodgers is coming back, everything's going to be fine. There's no guarantee. No. He's going to be a year old. He's coming off Achilles. You still have the same coaching situation. You know the schedule. The schedule is going to be probably harder next year than this year. So let's put it this way. I have no expectations until after the first week in November. Let me see where we're at. And even at that stage, let's say after the first 7-8 games, where I don't know, 5-2, 4-3 again. Do you have any faith? Because 2 years in a row they were in position to make a playoff run, and what happens? At 7-4 last year, Salah goes 0-6. This year at 4-3, what happens? They're on their way to probably 2-8, right?
Yeah.
So, or 2-9, whatever it might be. So, why would I feel anything differently until I get past Thanksgiving next year and really see where we're at?
I agree. The expectations are complete. As soon as Rodgers went down, I said, this is total jet luck. And I said it then when he went down, even though we won the game. I said, season's over. I said it. I said, there's no reason to have any hope. And I agree. I have heard all these Jet fans on the radio, on social media. Well, Rodgers is coming back, and we have a good chance to make the Super Bowl. Even what Salah said, didn't he kind of say that? Oh, well, we're going to go to the Super Bowl, and Rodgers could go off into the sunset. Really? Those are some big receipts. Remember, he's a big receipt guy, so he's got some big receipts coming with that statement.
Yeah, it's really amazing. And I tell you, watching, I canceled my Cleveland trip too. It just like I said, emotionally, I just couldn't make these trips and go out of my way to do this stuff. But watching him on the sidelines, it looked like he had. It looked like he wasn't even interested in the game.
No, he has no emotion.
I know. Yeah, no emotion. His facial expressions, I felt, was what I felt watching games. There've been so many games this year, like in the third quarter, like I'm watching the game, but I'm really not dialed into it because there was really no chance of them doing anything.
No. When you look at all the coaches, Gaze, Bowles, a lot of them didn't have emotion either. The coach that really had emotion was Rex Ryan. He was always yelling on the sidelines. I'm telling you, Ira, that's who we have to get to bring back. We need Rex Ryan.
We spoke about it and talk about that. I mean, it's certainly looking like Harbaugh's going to leave Michigan. And, I mean, I would give him a blank check, come in and run the whole the whole thing. But could you imagine now that Woody gave these guys, the endorsement that he did, and Harbaugh comes out and, there's not a shot in the world, no shot in the world that Woody's going to go after Jim Harbaugh. It's not going to happen.
No, it starts at ownership. It starts with him, and I get he wants to win, but he's just not football oriented. He's just not. When you look at the decisions, and it continues on, the coaching, it never changes. They got to change some serious personnel inside those buildings, scouts, because they just can't get draft picks right. Outside of the Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson draft, the drafts have been horrible. Will McDonald, this guy can't even see the field. I think there was a comment today Jermaine Johnson made, I saw on social media, where he said that, well, if his heart and mind is on the field, he's going to make a big leap in year 2. So that tells me he's not in it. And is that why he's not playing? I think that was the biggest waste of a draft pick I've ever seen with that guy, Will McDonald. Horrible.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. I think he has all the natural ability to be a player. Maybe you don't have the heart. I really don't know. But, the other thing is, would you consider the Brown roster top to bottom? I don't think it's as good as the Jet roster. Do you?
I think the offense is better. I think the defense, they say they're a top 5 defense. I mean, they got Myles Garrett. I think the Jets have more talent on defense. The offense, with Deshaun Watson, even just saw Flacco out there, I think they have more talent than us. Amari Cooper, they have more weapons than us. With especially with, it's just unbelievable when you look at it.
But the thing that annoys me is how the Browns pieced it together with backups and a guy like Flacco.
Worked.
And it worked with it just, and that goes back to coaching and the system.
Yeah.
And remember how I would kill Michael LaFleur?
Mm-hmm. I remember that.
He looks like Vince Lombardi compared to
Hackett. He does. Hackett's horrible.
Absolutely. And just the fact with LaFleur, I can't believe I'm defending him. With Mike LaFleur, he went through Josh Johnson. He went through a whole bunch of quarterbacks, and they're not winning, but they're putting points on the board.
Yeah.
But you got a guy like Hackett. He has this one system in place that Aaron Rodgers runs that he's comfortable with. But you take Aaron Rodgers out of the equation. I think that's the biggest problem with the offense, is that Hackett wasn't able to adjust to make things more comfortable for whoever's taking the snaps. So maybe this offense could look like an NFL offense.
No, it's almost as if Rodgers was going to, we know what it is. Rodgers was going to be the coordinator and the coach, him coming in, and Hackett was just there to get a paycheck. And it's basically cronyism at that point. That's why he was there. That was the key to getting Rodgers here, was when we got Hackett. I knew it from that point. Everyone knew that, okay, yeah, this is the key to landing Rodgers. And there was even comments in like news articles that I was reading where Rodgers would kind of just look at him, like you would hear it, and the players would just kind of just look confused, and Rodgers would be like, no, we're going to do it this way. And Hackett would be like, okay. So there you go. Rodgers was the coach and the manager of the offense.
Yeah, and you know what's interesting? As the season played out, watching Rodgers from the sideline,
oh, he's always shaking his head.
He's shaking his head, or he's talking into the headset, and you wonder what's really going on there. It's just it's really head scratch. I mean, at some point when this regime is wiped out, whether they have success or not, the truth will come out. But this is one of the more bizarre seasons I've ever gone through as a Jet fan.
Oh, it's strange. And now you have the whole Aaron Rodgers controversy off the field now. I'm sure you saw that with Jimmy Kimmel and all that's going on right now.
I know. I'm so sick and tired of it. And you know what's really funny? I took a lot of grief on certain radio show, okay, about really I would prefer Derek Carr instead of Aaron Rodgers.
Wow. Yeah, I remember you were a big Derek Carr guy. You were big on him.
Now, once again, Derek Carr has 21 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, 68% completion rate. They're 8-8. Okay, maybe the team is not that good. Maybe he's had some bad games, but he's played through injuries. He's played every game. All right. You have to look back, and the argument I had, the risk reward with Aaron Rodgers, for me personally. I understand why the Jets did it. They were swinging for the fences. I can't blame them. But for me personally, I felt I would have rather gone with a guy like a Derek Carr, build around him, and have a 3 to 5 year run. And I thought that was the way to go. And you know what? If they had signed Derek Carr, maybe they would have built this offensive line and the rest of the offensive side of the ball differently than bringing in Billy Hunter and Alan Lazard and Hardman and Dalvin Cook. And maybe they would have they wouldn't have gone with Brown and Becton because they wouldn't have paid Carr the money that they had to pay Rodgers.
No.
So maybe right now, instead of having this conversation about we're so uncertain about next year, maybe we're having a conversation about a really good team that's, maybe 9-7 and with a shot at the playoffs. And I think things might have been a lot different.
Yeah. We don't know. I mean, from what I've seen from Derek Carr this year, all I can guarantee is that we probably would have won more games that we had business winning with Carr. But I just don't see Carr taking us that far.
Right. Well, that, and I get that point. And that's why I know why the Jets swung for the fences. I get it. But once again, the risk reward factor was just way too high for me. And now, like you said, he's making headlines in the news, and it's like, I just want this guy to go away. Go to California, do whatever you need to do to get ready for next year. And the next time I want to hear you talk, I want to hear about the upcoming season. I don't want to hear about anything else.
Yeah.
I really couldn't care less about his opinions on any topic unless it's football related.
I agree. We knew this because remember we talked about it when we were in the process of getting him. We talked about the off-field antics being a turnoff, but yeah, he's going to be on the Pat McAfee show every Tuesday. So
now is that right through the year, even when there's no football?
That's a good question. I'm not 100% sure about that. But he's on.
Heaven help us if that's the fact. Heaven help us. Like, first week of April, I don't need to hear Aaron Rodgers talking about like the upcoming baseball season on Pat McAfee.
Yeah. I think it's just during the football season, because I remember when they brought him on for when he was making the decision to go to the Jet. When he announced the decision, he announced it on their show. I think a couple other times. I don't think it's every week. I hope not. I hope not. Well, one thing that caught me about approximately 2 to 3 weeks ago, he made a comment that, he's going to train out on the West Coast, and then he'll be back on the East Coast. He'll be back in time for free agency in the draft. And I'm saying, wait a minute. Why? Do what you need to do on the field and in the weight room. Stay away from the personnel department. He's coming back to get in that offense to that office to have a say on draft night and who they sign. And they better get the right guys, because the people he brought in, all failures.
Okay, now here, let me ask you this question. What are the odds that, how when they cover the draft, they show the war room and everything? What are the odds that you see Aaron Rodgers sitting next to Joe Douglas in the draft room?
Very high. I think they're very high.
There you go.
He's going to be there.
Or you see Aaron Rodgers on the phone calling the first round pick instead of the GM or the owner.
They put him on the phone. Aaron wants to talk to you.
That's right. Welcome to the New York Jets.
Yeah.
Like Saleh was screaming sauce a few years ago. You hear Aaron, like they get the best offensive lineman, and Aaron Rodgers is screaming the guy's name at the end of the telephone.
This franchise is cursed. It really. And let's talk. Speaking of cursed, because I was looking at this Jet jacket online, and it had the new logo on it. The only thing I have with the new logo on it is just a hat. And I really hate the new logo. The new uniforms, I told you, they reek of Adam Gaze. Time to get them out of here. Get the 80 uniforms back, or just get the uniforms that we had back since the when Parcells took over. Please get rid of these new uniforms that we have. There's just something about them. Like, I want to get it because it's my team, but that logo, it just reeks of just loss and just the dark ages.
I know. Now here, I'll ask you another question. Once again, talking about coaching. Okay, how much better, if any, or maybe worse, is the current coaching situation compared to Bowles and Gase. I think Bowles was a much better coach than Saleh
Yeah,
was.
he was. As much as I don't want to admit it, he was. Gase, he was a disaster. I can't. That last year with Gase, oh, yeah, we're pretty close there. Yeah, we're pretty close with Saleh and Gase. We're pretty close.
I mean, you know how I shouldn't make fun, but we're just doing this to get a laugh. You know, when you're in the stadium and at some point they put like a peanut underneath the helmet and then they spin them around and you have to guess which helmet has the peanut, right?
Yeah.
So you could take the three of them. You could take Gase, you could take Kotite, and you could take Saleh and put them underneath the helmet and try to pick which one of the three is worse. I mean, you can't make it up. It's so sad that it's come to this, but. No. Like I said, they do have some really good pieces on this team, and I think it can be fixed quickly if they do make the right moves.
Yeah, and we got to trust Douglas, and Douglas hasn't gotten it done. He hasn't gotten it done. He's a lot of question marks.
This is a big year. Rodgers got to stay healthy. Bring in the right players, and maybe they can have a quick turnaround. But I have to see it to believe it.
Yeah, special teams is perfect. Morstead, right? Zerline. These guys are top.
Oh, Zerline's money. I mean, what a addition and Morstead. Yeah, now, you can make the argument those two guys are in the running for the MVP of the team.
Yeah. Yep.
So who would you say if you picked one player had the best season on either side of the ball or special teams?
I would say for defense, you could probably say. I mean, Sauce Gardner, but no one targets him. But I think Quincy Williams, he's had I love Quincy Williams at the linebacker. I think probably him on defense. Offense, I'd have to say Breece Hall or Garrett Wilson. Breece Hall is more surprising because it's like the ACL never happened. So I'd have to say Breece Hall.
And you can't disregard Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, with the 1,000-yard season.
With 4 different quarterbacks who really none of them could play.
No.
Let's be honest, and with no number 2 receiver opposite him.
No.
So you got to give them a lot of credit for what they did also. So, it's going to be fascinating. Unfortunately, once again, starting next weekend, we're going to be watching and observing good football teams. Our team's not going to be in there. And we're just going to have to sit tight. And we're going to have to wait till approximately the second week of March for free agency to start.
Yeah, another year down the drain, and then one hopefully not in counting for 14 years outside of the playoffs. I want to make it this year. It's about time. Let's go.
Well, I'll leave you with this. If the Packers happen to finish in 3rd place, I think let's see, the Packers have to lose and. I forget the scenario, but if the Packers finish in 3rd place and we play the Packers in Lambeau, I'm going on record saying right now that the Jets are opening Monday night next year in Lambeau with Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah. Yeah. They talked about that being a possibility recently. So.
Oh, have they really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It would be interesting.
I think it would be must-watch TV. I mean, there's no 2 ways about it. And let me one other question. You think HBO is dying to run it back?
Hard Knocks.
I think the Aaron Rodgers comeback trail. Are you kidding me?
Yeah,
it would be Hard Knocks, New York Jets Part 2. You know they're going to want to do that.
Yeah, they are. Oh.
So it just goes on and on and on and on, but you know what? We all love the Jets. We hope for the best.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
We're sick, Ira. We like this team. They cause us so much pain and heartbreak when we love them.
I know. It's just hopefully one of these seasons they're going to turn it around and we'll be talking about a playoff game, I hope.
Yeah, I'm hoping next year it better happen because if it doesn't happen, it's going to be a while.
A year from now, I really don't want to have a conversation with you about who the next coach and GM is going to be. I really don't want to have that conversation.
No, I don't. I agree. But sadly, I think that's what's going to end up happening because I have no faith in Saleh and Douglas.
Probably. I know. It's just unbelievable. But listen, I hope you get better and feel good, and I guess we'll talk as we get closer to free agency, I guess.
Yeah, we'll talk about the updates on who we can get and who we're probably going to get, as well as the mock drafts that are out there, who we could look at on the draft boards. And yeah, we'll talk again soon. All right, Ira?
Sounds good. Feel good, my man.
Yep, you too, Ira. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your night.
Thank you.
Yep,
Bye-bye.
go Jets.